Good evening. Welcome to Urban Facts. It is May 22nd, 7 p.m., and I'm your host for today, Embrielle. And today, as you all can see, I have with me my sister Amaya. Hey, Amaya. Today, she will be discussing the adultification of young Black girls. But before she discusses that, I have a moment in Black history that I would like to share. And yeah, so without further ado, I'm gonna share my moment in Black history, and then the floor is Amaya's. So the query for the query for church Black girl bombings most likely refers to the tragic bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, on September 5th, 1963, where four young African American girls were killed. The sixth the 16th Street Baptist Church, a central meeting place for civil rights activists in Birmingham, was bombed by members of the Ku Klux Klan. The bombing killed Addie Mae Collins, Carl Robertson, Cynthia Wesley, all aged 14, and Denise McClare, aged 11. Robert Kimbliss, Bobby Frank, Cherry, and Thomas Blanton were eventually convicted for their roles in the bombing. Herman Crash, another suspected, died before he could be prosecuted. The Hens Act of the violence became a turning point in the civil rights movement, highlighting the brutality of racial segregation and glazing support for civil rights legislation. The bombing contributed to the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The bombing is a stark reminder of the racial hatred and violence that plagued the South during the Civil Rights era. It serves as a powerful symbol of the struggle for equality and justice. So overall, the bombing was of 16th Street Baptist Church was a horrific act of racial terror that resulted in the deaths of four innocent young Black girls. This event played a significant role in the shaping of the course of civil rights movement and remains a crucial part of American history. So that's your fact for today. Hope you remember the church girl bombing. And without further ado, I'll give the floor to Maya, who's going to be discussing topics of adultification of young Black girls. So, hi, Maya.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amaya Monet. Just a little bit about me. I'm a rising junior. I am an English and International and Comparative Studies major, and currently I am studying the adultification of Black girls and the impact that it has on intergenerational systemic oppression and the way that it impacts Black girls' mental health and well-being, and the way that academic policies and educational spaces, the rules and language that are used in policies can be anti-Black, and how that contributes to the adultification of Black girls. So before I begin, what is adultification? Adultification simply is adding traits or adultifying, giving the responsibilities that belong to adults to younger girls. So that can look like restricting playtime because Black girls or children are forced to watch their siblings or wash clothes. That could be assuming that Black girls know knowledge about certain topics, especially when it comes to sexual education. That can be assuming that Black girls are more dangerous or know more about their behavior and how they should behave in school settings. That also results in higher suspension rates for Black girls. That leads to more criminalization of Black girls in schools compared to their white peers. And it causes Black girls to be ostracized and to be looked at as if they already know everything, which creates a community that is unsafe, and it forces Black girls to grow up earlier than they are supposed to, and it leads them, a lot of times it leads them to believe that they are stuck in the cycle of adultification, which is not being able to go to college or not being able to get an education because they are forced to stay home, or they're forced to take upon the responsibilities of their mother or their father or grandmother or whoever it is that does the adultifying. So I had the opportunity to work with Education Law Center, and from working with Education Law Center, they looked at how adultification impacts Black girls in Philadelphia schools. And from that, they established a report. And with the report, they came up with 8 key recommendations. And the first one is schools need to hire, retain, and support more Black teachers, administrators, and staff. And why is this important for adultification? What does this have to do with adultification? Uh, when Black girls are surrounded by other Black teachers and Black staff, it makes them feel safer in their communities, and it allows them to feel more invited because they are surrounded by people who know the things that who know their experiences, who have lived their experiences, versus people who may try to downplay what they are going through and may not give them an outlet or a voice in order to be Black girls. So having these teachers and administrators and staff is more than just, oh, we're hiring these people, but you're hiring these people who have lived experiences as them, who Black girls are more comfortable with talking to because they know that they may understand, like another Black woman may understand like the things that they have to do at home, or they might understand how they feel or things of that sort. Black girls need access to supportive and affirming adults at school. This ties back into the first one, but it touches on how Black girls also need to be lifted up. And a study done by Georgetown Equity and Inclusion Center, they found that a lot of Black girls are not receiving the same mental health treatments as their white peers. Instead, they're being criminalized and ostracized because because school officials, because this is happening in academic places, believe that Black girls are not having these mental health issues because they're being overlooked. So having these affirming adults at school really caters to and pushes Black girls to have more of a safe education, and it also leads them to want to learn and want to have this education. And the third one is schools must implement culturally responsive and affirming curriculum. And I want to skip to the fourth one because ties around a lot of my research, which is dress and grooming codes FUs must be fair and inclusive and must affirm students' cultural and gender expression. This is really important because with that study that I mentioned before, they found that Black girls as young as the age of 5 are seen as adults, which means that Black girls also are not allowed to dress a certain way, behave a certain way, wear certain things, because it's automatically adultified. It's automatically seen as inappropriate or hypersexualized. So in these school spaces, you see rules that have anti-Black rhetoric, like you can't wear a bandana, or you can't wear a do-rag, or you can't have rips in your jeans, or your earrings can't be larger than a quarter. And with schools, how does that make that anti-Black? Because how does that contribute or disrupt the learning environment? Instead, it targets a specific culture, and then it targets a specific gender within that culture who is known to wear those items and who is known to feel comfortable in those items, like cultural head wraps. The school district has recently allowed cultural head wraps to be okay. But before, things like bonnets and do-rags were banned. And I went to a school where there was a bonnet and a do-rag day. But then the following years, it was like, we really couldn't do that because of the way that the dress code was set up. And students would wear like bonnets and do-rags to school, but would be penalized because in the dress code it would say like you couldn't wear things on your head. And then with the earrings not being larger than a quarter, it is very anti-black. And still, when the school district is faced with the question, how does this disrupt the learning environment, they aren't able to answer the question. They aren't able to say how wearing earrings in the classroom that are bigger than a quarter can disrupt the learning environment. How does that pose as a threat? And recently, even with hair, the way that black girls' hair is policed. A young black girl, I cannot remember the school, but it was recently closed down, but she was suspended for wearing blonde hair to school. Blonde hair grows out of some people's heads, and the blonde hair is not just exclusive to white children. Black people have blonde hair, black people have ginger hair, black people have black hair, brown hair, all different colors of hair. So to police a black girl's hair and to say that she can't wear blonde hair is very inappropriate, and that people don't see that as adultification, because adultification is hidden behind a lot of different systems like racism and sexism. They intersect with each other. So adultification is often just seen as catcalling or sexualizing black girls, but it's a systemic practice that imprisons black girls to a racial system that tells them that they aren't able to achieve, that they aren't able to show up in the clothes or in the bodies that they already have. And it pushes them into respectability politics towards what the white man wants them to wear, what the white man believes that a black woman should show up as in these professional settings, and especially in places of academia. It's as if black girlhood is too, you can insert any word that may be inappropriate for professional, or black girlhood is unprofessional or not professional enough for white professional or white corporate spaces. And this is what the dress code is telling these black girls, and it's policing black girls' bodies. Another thing that I have seen when I am in school is that black girls are getting in trouble more than their white peers when it comes to the dress code, not being able to wear a certain style of pants or not being able to wear tights. I remember in 8th grade that the dean of our school told my friend that she wasn't able to wear tights to school. And once again, I know that teachers are just following the rules that they are given, but at the same time, we don't realize the way that those rules and these policies, they reflect back onto the way that black girls view themselves. So now it's like, if I have tights on or if I have ripped jeans on, I'm not professional, or I'm fast, or I'm trying to be inappropriate, when at the end of the day, it's just clothes that's on my body. And living in the inner city, it's like tights, you never know like what people are going through, because tights can be less expensive than a pair of jeans, or the pair of ripped jeans could cost less than a pair of, jeans without rips, whatever the situation may be. But this is why, once again, like, the dress code policies are a very slippery slope that can be very anti-black, that can be very anti-girl, because of the way that black girls and women's bodies in general are policed. Now, the next one that I want to add to is the next recommendation, or the sixth one, is police should be removed from schools. Black girls have the lowest enrollment rate in schools across the United States, but the highest criminalization, in school arrest, and in school suspension rates. They have the highest compared to white girls, who have a higher enrollment rate with a lower in-school arrest rate. If I'm not mistaken, the enrollment rate for black girls falls around 15 to 25%, and their in-school arrests and in-school suspensions is anywhere from 25 to 50%. So it's a difference. And part of the problem is the presence of police on schools. And a lot of the times it is because the school district says that police are on schools for the safety of students, especially with the rise of gun violence and the rise of violence in schools and especially in urban communities, the rise of gun violence. However, police presence in schools, a lot of times it does not make students feel safe. And what it does lead to is minor arrest and minor and higher incarceration rates for Black children, and in this case, Black girls. Because what we are seeing is Black girls being arrested for talking back, Black girls being arrested for fights and things of that sort. Even schools, even students being arrested or escorted out of the school because they're there past the time that they can be there. And we see a comment that says, why are police in schools and what areas are they stationed in? Police are mainly in schools. I feel like I touched on this, but police are mainly in schools due to the rise in gun violence and the rise in violence within schools. So the school district's bright idea was to increase police presence on school campuses and introduce the metal detectors, and which students have to walk through and empty in their pockets and putting it on the x-ray machine and then putting their book bags and all of that through it as if they're prisoners. So that is what the school district's idea was in order to decrease violence within schools, which did not work. Which, if they look at it, it only increased the amount of in-school arrests and the amount of and the criminalization of Black children, and in this case, Black girls. So it was not a good solution. So, which is why a lot of people are calling for police to be removed from schools, because it is only harming our students. While a lot of students may feel safer with police on school campuses, which is oftentimes not the case, a lot of students are very uncomfortable and feeling as though they're walking on eggshells because these police are at their schools. The seventh one is schools need sufficient resources to fully educate Black girls and support their academic success. And this includes having a Black history curriculum. Black history curriculum allows Black girls to see themselves past just slavery, past just being oppressed. Having that Black history curriculum, even including Black girls or Black women pioneers in the school's curriculum. It's small things like that. But when the African American history curriculums are removed, or when, for example, DEI is taking away a lot of African American history, a lot of Black rhetoric, a lot of Black literature, a lot of African American women literature. A lot of these things are being removed from schools, and with that is the history behind it. And when Black girls are not aware of their history, they're not aware of the things that they can accomplish and the things that have already been done. What makes it very dangerous living in today's society is because it is a way to limit Black people and only subject them to the oppression and the systemic barriers that they see. So sometimes when people are only conditioned to reality, or when people are only allowed to see what they can see, which is oppression and intersectionality. And to see intersectionality is when oppressions intersect. So being a black person and being a girl, when those things intersect, it makes it a little harder to accomplish things in this world, and it makes oppression worse. And intersectionality is a term that's coined by Kimberly Crenshaw. However, when those things are stripped from schools, it allows people to feel limited because they have not seen, especially Black girls, to feel limited because they have not seen these things done yet. So that's why having sufficient resources to fully educate Black girls and support their academic success is very important. Also, that includes education around reproductive health. The study from Georgetown also showed that Black girls know more about their bodies compared to their peers, which is a lie. It's not true. It's not proven. Like, they couldn't prove that. It's only assumed because of the way that Black girls are portrayed. Black girls need to know about their reproductive health. And because Black girls do not know about their reproductive health, it's very dangerous. It could cause a rise in unplanned pregnancies. It could cause a rise in sexually transmitted diseases and infections, because these things are not being taught in schools and they're not seen as a necessity. And it's very important to teach Black girls these things in schools, because it breaks the stigma of what is already expected of Black girls. I see in the chat the question, what is DEI? DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it is put in place to ensure that higher companies or institutions and systems are hiring people who are not just white men. So that includes, contrary to popular belief, that includes white women. White women do not believe that includes them, but it does. It very much includes white women, and includes anyone who is not a white man. It includes women, it includes Black people, it includes Asian people, it includes people with disabilities, it includes children. It includes all of those things, and it is a protection to ensure that Black people are being included. And it doesn't mean, DEI doesn't mean that you don't have the qualification, because you have the qualification. You're just being pushed and ensured that you are in these companies, that you are in these spaces, that in this instance, that Black girls are in these positions, that Black girls and Black women have these opportunities. That's what DEI is. And it also is African American history and curriculum. So as you can see, they're removing things from the African American History Museum. That is due to diversity, equity, and inclusion, because they don't feel, since there is a ban on DEI, they do not feel the need to further educate society on Black history outside of what is already known, or outside of what the government or what white society wants you to know. So without DEI, it is very harmful for minority groups or groups who are marginalized groups, because it removes the history, and it is very important history. Like I was saying, when you don't know your history, it puts you in grave danger of repeating the same mistakes. And the eighth one, I feel like it is important, but it is just a shift in the argument. But we're going to take a break for Embrielle to give her take as a Black girl who is currently in high school. I'm in college. So Embrielle's in high school. Things have changed a little bit since I've been out of school. So just to hear about what she is going through as a Black girl, how she feels as a Black girl going to a Philadelphia public high school. And yeah.
Okay, so thank you. Phenomenal job already. I just want to say that as a Black girl who I go to Kappa on Broad Street. I want to say that this is very disappointing to hear about. I did do some type of research when I was working with Re-Rain. I did do some type of research with adultification of young Black girls. So I do already know some type of things that Black girls face with adultification, such as what you described already, like Black girl push out, which mean when they're like suspended from school at a higher rate than their white peers or their other peers, mainly because they're Black girls. And because of the stereotype that Black girls are always just so violent and so fast, it causes people to adultify them in a different way than they would anybody else. So for me, I kind of felt like I kind of knew what Amaya was kind of talking about when she was talking about the metal detectors and the police being stationed inside of the schools. Because as I said, I go to Kappa, and so inside of my high school. But before the school I went to Mastery, like down the street from here. They didn't have not one, probably like one security guard, but he was really secure. Hold any type of weapon, not that I knew of, but he was one security guard. He basically stood at the front door, and that was it. And he'll just guard the front door. But when I go to Kappa, it's like it's so different. We do have officers, and there's a lot of them, and they're like mainly at the front as well, but they're also stationed around where other places, like we have a grand hall, so there's some in the grand hall as well. and then there's some over there and over there and over there. So, and then the metal detectors. The metal detectors, when I walk through them every day, it's actually very stressful, especially because for me, because I be late most of the times. I have to take off my purse, my book bag, put my phone in there, my lunch, put it in there. And if I didn't take it off, they'll have me like open it to see if there's anything in there, like, oh, I didn't check it or that I didn't see that. And I have to put any type of metal that I have on, take it off. My friend, she wears these like shoes and they have a lot of buttons and clips on them. So she has to take her shoes off, no matter if it's raining or anything. She has to take them off, and then she has to put them in this basket to go through the scanner. I mean, like they're shoes. I mean, like she's not hiding anything in here. So like, I do believe that they need to start trusting us more, mainly because like I don't think anybody would. I mean, I don't know, but I'm sure nobody would hide nothing in shoes. But it was like she made her take off her shoes, and then she had some on her. They made take off her jacket. It was like we basically have to do all of this just to say that we don't have no weapons and all this other stuff, or we're not being a threat to the school. And they're supposed to protect us from the school, but it seems like they're trying to protect us from like each other, which is not really cool. And yeah, we have another question. It says, how does that make the Black girls who are experiencing this feel? So yeah. So for my friend who has to do, well, I know my other friend, she also gets, because she has a figure to her. And she also gets talked about when she wears her, like her tights, just like Amaya was talking about, when she wears her tights. And people will say stuff to her. And they'll be like, because she wears, it's not booty shorts, because they do stop like somewhere like in the middle of her thigh, and they're not booty shorts. So like they'll say to her, like a teacher will say, you have on booty shorts, but really like yes, her butt is poking out, but no, it's not booty shorts. So it's like you're trying to, why are you even looking down there, first of all? Because she's a child. That's not where your eyes should be at. And second of all, that's not fair to just talk about her. But the other kids, the more lighter complexion kids, they wear, I'm telling you, if you go to Kappa, you know, they wear shorts, not even, they would, I think that at that length, that would be a great length, but they don't even wear shorts at that length. It'd be like higher than that, way higher than that. We see everything. But because of the two different figures and the two different sizes, it's a problem. And that shouldn't really be the case. She was telling me how like she was so mad she had to put her jacket on her waist to cover it up. And that shouldn't be her problem. She shouldn't have to do that. Nobody should be looking down there in the first place. That's the problem. Nobody should be looking down there. She shouldn't have to put her jacket to cover up anything. It's her body. Just like it's their body, it's her body. So I personally, because that never happened to me, but I personally believe that that's unfair. And it's unfair to think that somebody is just trying to be fast, or they're just trying to show the world, or just trying to show their body parts to do all of that and be grown, when really they're just dressing and they're just putting on the clothes that they think is cute. And you're just saying that they're being fast, and that's not really, I don't think that's fair. So yes, so I'll give the floor back to Amaya. I just wanted to share my take on it. And yeah.
Thanks, Amber.
Thank you.
So a big question I get, especially when talking to professors and teachers about this work, is where did this come from? Because it's like, yeah, a lot of people say like, I've never heard anything about this before. Where did this come from? Adultification traces all the way back to slavery. And I'm going to read from Girlhood Interrupted, which is the study done by Georgetown, when they say, in tracing the legal history of differential treatment of children based on race, Professor Priscilla Olson has written, as the notion of innocent developmental child emerged, white children begin to enjoy greater legal protections, while Black children's position remained relatively unchanged. This result is rooted in the legacy of racial discrimination in this country, which historically included responding to Black youth childlike behavior more punitively. So here we have the idea of black children or black children not being allowed to experience childhood. And this goes back, like I said, to it goes back in history, and it starts with the starting of these children being forced to work in um like camps and factories, and even these refinement and punishment schools, and where children were basically kidnapped and they were taken to these disciplinary schools or these places, and they were forced to work, and they were not allowed to go outside and play. They were not allowed to have fun. And even children who were seen like outside and playing, it was very dangerous. So their parents started to restrict them going outside. So this is when the criminalization of Black childhood joy and Black childhood play started to be punished. Children would get arrested for playing outside or even playing with their white neighbors. So it became very dangerous. So the question started to emerge is, what does childhood look like for Black children? And in my case, what does childhood look like for Black girls? Black girls have been seen as a commodity, and it goes back to way back to chattel slavery, when Black girls were sold and they were used for their bodies once they had a period. And once they developed a period, they started to be seen as women, and they were sold as women. Because, to put it bluntly, they could reproduce, or the slave masters could have sex with them. So they were seen as women, and they were sold as women, or a female slave is what they were called. So it started to blur the lines of what is a child and what is an adult. And the idea of innocence was only something that was seen or could be portrayed to white children. So Black children were not innocent, and white children were innocent. So the more and more Black children were disciplined or corrected into, or disciplined into this idea of whiteness, this is when this whole innocence idea for Black children started to emerge, having to punish them or correct them or reinforce their behavior as if their behavior is a problem, because their behavior was not a reflection of what whiteness was. So it's when these systems are in place, is when, as Black girls started to grow up older and older and older, and as generations started to pass, is when these policies that started from slavery started to emerge. So we have these anti-Black and these dog whistle racist policies that exist now, that are now perpetuating the adultification of Black girls that we see today. So because Black girls were seen as less innocent and as women when they were children of age, children 10, 6, 5, 4 years old, because that was how they were seen during slavery, and now impacts the way that they are seen now in today's society. And it is hard due to historical trauma and due to historical policies to cause a shift in a narrative without educating people on what adultification is and how it actually is a systemic practice, rather than just catcalling and seeing Black girls as Black women. It is a huge practice, and it's what caused me to start my research. And my goal with my research is to bring awareness to the unique challenges that Black girls face. And I feel like the last time I was on here, I spoke about this a little bit, that the problem of the Black girl is not the problem of the Black woman. Black women and Black girls face two different things. They are two different. They're not the same. A Black woman is a Black woman. A Black girl is a Black girl. A Black girl is a child and can be seen as a woman, while it is very rare that a Black woman is seen as a child. I hope that makes sense. So back to my outcome, but particularly the pervasive issue of adultification. Adultification is not simply the isolated experience or matter of perception. It's a systemic issue rooted in white supremacy, racism, misogyny, and hate. And misogyny is the discrimination of women. Too often, society views adultification as merely inappropriate behaviors like catcalling or misjudged maturity. However, it runs much deeper, affecting how Black girls are disciplined, protected, and supported within schools, communities, and institutions. And institutions include hospitals, include school systems, I said that, educational systems, colleges, churches. An institution is not just a school or like a corporate building. It is a place that is run with workers, where people, a system. So, like a store, anything. So, this work aims to amplify, or my work aims to amplify the voices of Black girls who have been limited and marginalized by systems not designed with their humanity in mind. By highlighting their lived experiences, I hope to shift the narrative and advocate for systemic change. And shifting the narrative is causing society to view Black girls as Black girls. So once we start to see Black girls as children, that's when we start to realize that the things that are being done to Black girls are actually very inhumane and unjust. And once Black girls start to be viewed as children is when people start to realize that this is not appropriate to be doing to a child. I shouldn't be policing a child's body. But it all starts back with the way that we view Black girls. Because if you view Black girls as less deserving and less needing of nurturing and support and protection, and then these ideas or these challenges are never going to happen, because the way that Black girls are seen is not challenged first. My research is intended to serve as a foundational step towards policy development that explicitly includes and addresses the needs of Black girls. And I emphasize this point so much because there's so much policy and legislation that includes Black people, but it excludes the problems of Black girls. And with doing that, not only does it silence Black girls, but it almost makes their problems as if they're invisible, as if Black girl issues do not exist. Recognizing adultification as a systemic issue rather than just an individual or cultural failing opens the door to meaningful solutions and long overdue justice. So, for this research, I'll be looking at multi-generational Black girls and their families across different U.S. regions and how they respond to adultification over time. How did they feel impacted by the policies? How did they respond to injustice when they were faced with injustice and things of that sort? So, since I have a Black girl here right now, I'll be asking her just a few questions. And one of them being, how do you feel like adultification or specifically anti-Black girl rhetoric has impacted you as a Black girl?
One way I feel like adultification has affected me or impacted me as a Black girl is mainly throughout, like you said, the doctor's office and through school. I feel like, especially in school, when we are not allowed to do some of the same things that our white peers would just get away with, that's adultifying us. And also sometimes at home, you can be like, I remember when I was doing my research for Rain, I was hearing about like sometimes you can be getting like adultified and you never know. Sometimes your own parents, can be adultifying you. Like, we have a question right now. How do parents play a part in the adult application of their own children?
It was a typo.
Oh, adultification. Oh, okay. I was going to talk about that. So basically, like I said, sometimes your own parents can, adultification. Sometimes your own parents can be the ones to adultify you. Like if your mother were to tell you to like, oh, I'm too tired today. Can you go downstairs and cook the dinner? That's something that will be adultifying you and just making you feel in the position of what a normal mother or what a mother would usually do. Or saying, hey, after school. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but this is being adultified. Hey, after school.
And I want to emphasize that it's not just like one scenario, because we have instances where there's single mothers who need help and who rely on their children to help them and to support them. So asking a child to cook a meal or to step in for you when you're tired is not necessarily a problem, but it does sometimes have this impact on the child of stripping them away from their childhood. And it is something that we all experience, especially with the rise in single mothers and the rise of Black single mothers, especially. Um, but yes, not that that is an issue, but it is something that can contribute to the adultification of Black girls. Once it starts to be a pattern, once it starts to be seen as, oh, I don't have to do this because my daughter will, or I don't have to, I don't have to worry about that because she's at home and she can clean up or she can look after the baby or whatever. But
yes, which ties into the next point of what I was going to say is like they ask you to go pick up your younger siblings from the school. That's also kind of like, I mean, yes, there's nothing wrong with that because I've probably picked up Chase a couple of times from school, but there's nothing wrong with that. But that is tying into a huge role of the adultification of Black girls. So some people are like, where could this have stemmed from? Sometimes it mainly could stem from home and your home environment. And you're like, oh, I didn't even know I was getting adultified. Because sometimes your own parents can be adultifying you, or just thinking that it could be with emotional levels too. Just thinking like, my child is now ready to hear this stuff about me and what I did in my past, thinking that, oh, she's ready now, and just rushing her emotional maturity level when really she's probably not even ready to hear about that stuff yet. You got to ask them. That's also adultifying them. It's forcing them to just be like, okay, I just got to take in that my mommy's not my mommy anymore, or someone like that. So that's also kind of like a huge role in how Black girls are adultified in the daily. And what I was going to talk about also was the doctor's office. Some may say that it's probably not in the doctor's office, but it's actually mostly there. Because I know.
Before you do that, let's talk a little bit more about how parents play a role in the adultification of their own children. Because I don't want to confuse anyone with saying that asking for help from your children is automatically adultifying them, because it's not. It is a process. It is the blatant ignorance and disregard for your child's childhood, because Black children grow up as if childhood is something that has to be earned or a privilege instead of a necessity. So when parents view childhood, girlhood, as something that has to be earned or a privilege for Black girls, it strips them of their Black girlhood, their childhood, and a fundamental building block that they need in life. Like, you need to experience childhood in order to get to the next step of life.
Right.
But when we are conditioned to believe that it's not something that you deserve, or I this, so you have to grow up this way as well, is very harmful, and it causes that lasting impact of generational trauma. Because a lot of people, because this stems back from slavery, Black children with being policed and their childhood joy, Black joy being criminalized, Black play being criminalized, that made Black children especially feel like that they had to earn their childhood, because childhood was associated with innocence, and innocence is associated with whiteness. So all of those things combined is how now today a lot of Black people internalize that and now believe that, well, one can assume based on their actions that childhood is seen as something that is something to be earned, something that has to be worked towards, instead of something that is just given and something that is needed. And another way that Black girls are adultified by their parents is with the policing of their bodies and of their attire in their homes. And I get protection outside, but if you feel as though that a man that you are bringing in your house is going to sexualize your child, meaning look at them in a way that is inappropriate considering their age, in relationship to that man, then please do not bring them in the home. Do not tell the child to go change out of their tank top and their shorts or their pajama pants or to go put a bra on or whatever because a man is coming into their house. A man is coming into their space, because what that does, it not only it takes away from that safe space that Black girls deserve to have, but it makes them feel as though they are not safe in their bodies. And I know, because I am a Black girl and I've lived through that. Not being able to feel safe in your own home as if you can wear what you want to wear. Black girls deserve to wear lounge clothes. Black girls deserve to lounge around in their house because it is their home. So I want to reiterate that. If you feel like Uncle Steve is going to adultify or sexualize your daughter, then do not bring Uncle Steve around. I don't have an Uncle Steve, but just saying, like, if that is something that you are afraid of, do not criminalize your daughter, because that is often what is happening. Do not criminalize the young girl and strip her away from her innocence because a man is entering the house. That is one of the biggest ways, out of working with Black girls and talking to Black girls, that is one of the biggest ways that Black girls have been able to identify adultification in their life, being told to change their clothes, or even growing up. And a lot of the Black girls that I've talked to, growing up skinny and still being told to change out of tights, or still being told to put something on around your waist. It teaches them that their bodies are sexual objects, and that is all that it starts this chain cycle. That is all that their bodies is worth. It's very harmful rhetoric, and I feel like that is something that should be eradicated in the practice of Black homes, and that's something that I'll also be touching into on my research. But another important point that Ambrielle is going to talk about is adultification in doctors' offices
and before I talk about that, what you were talking about kind of brings up this question, is that if they are dressing like that, and their parents go tell them to do that, then doesn't it teach them how to present their bodies in a respectful way? It kind of brings up that question, does it? That's what I'm asking.
That's a great question, and I think it depends. And it also touches back on respectability politics, because a lot of things that I was taught from different systems and different people in these systems, and even family and stuff like that, of what is a presentable way, I no longer see that as a presentable way, but as a form of respectability politics and adhering to the white man. And it's like, you can't tell, like, how is that telling a 5-year-old to go change out a tank top and the shorts? How is that teaching her what is presentable? It's only teaching her that her body is to be policed and is a sexual object, and that even in her home, she is not able to be comfortable and be free in her body. So it is a very slippery slope that starts that chain of respectability politics versus what is appropriate, because what is appropriate and what is presentable? Am I always going to be wearing a suit and tie? Am I always going to be covered from my ankles to my wrist? Am I going to be covered from my forehead to my toes? What is presentable? And it is an argument that has mainly, I don't want to say only, but that has mainly, especially with reading different articles and literature reviews, that has mainly been targeted to Black women and Black girls and women in general, because it stems from the policing and hypersexualization of women's bodies. So I feel like it is kind of slippery to say that is teaching Black girls about what is presentable, because oftentimes there is no instruction behind the go change your clothes. So it's not them understanding, oh, this is how you have to present yourself, or this is how I believe that it is safe to present yourself. It's not that. It's, oh, cousin so-and-so or uncle so-and-so or whoever is coming, go put on a shirt or go put on some pants. And the conversation is left at that. which can be internalized negatively.
Yes. Thank you. I totally agree. I think that I've totally been told that, like, hey, go change your shorts or go change this, and I'll have already have on something, but he'd be like, go put on something, go put on some real clothes. Okay, so yes, without further ado, um, I would like to talk about how Black girls are adultified in the doctor's office. So mainly, um, when you're in the doctor's office, some questions that they ask you is about, like, they'll just like assume, they'll just assume, like, hey, have you been sexually active? And that's mainly because I am a Black female. I know some of my white, because we were talking about this. It's crazy. I was talking about this with my friends not too long ago, and one of my white friends, she said, "Hey, I've never been asked that question before," and I was like, "Really?" Because I've been asked that question, like, "Are you sexually active?" Someone even asked me, "Was I a lesbian?" But that's not even to the point. But saying, "Are you sexually active?" All of this other stuff, and I was just like, "Why would you just think that?" I think I was 14. I'm 14 years old. Is it because of the stereotype that sometimes Black girls at this age, or even older than that, are sometimes even pregnant, or sometimes fooling around with boys? Is it because of that? That's what leads to that question. Like, is it because of the stereotype that all Black girls are fast and they're sexually active? So I know my doctor, he asked me that before. Like, he just assumed, like, oh, you're sexually active. I'm not sexually active. The devil is a liar. I've never been, I don't know what, but yes, no, I've never been sexually active. So I know all of my other friends said they asked me that too. And it made them feel uncomfortable, especially, why would you ask me that? And my mother is sitting right across from me, or my father is sitting right there, and you ask me, am I sexually active?
Yeah, and that touches on something that my mentor, well, Amber knows her as well, but Dr. Daniela Brissett, she did a report. And in the report, she talks about the implications for primary care providers. And one of them was culturally sensitive care. And this is to implement care practices that acknowledge and address the unique challenges faced by Black girls. And culturally sensitive care also includes knowing what to say and what not to say about a Black girl. Because as a doctor and as a physician and as a healthcare provider, as soon as you enter the door to help someone, the biases and the past implications that you have about that person's race or gender should be left at the door so that you are able to effectively help this person. And as a Black girl, I've had a similar experience when in college, I was asked if I was sexually active as well, but instead of her believing me the 3 times that she asked me, she went on to ask me 7 more times, as if I was going to lie or as if I was unsure about being sexually active. Like, I know that I'm not sexually active. So it's these things that create these spaces that Black girls feel uncomfortable in, unseen, and unheard. And it creates it causes that to have this impact about hypersexualization on Black girls. So all of this is very important, and I will be back on to talk about my research, and hopefully I can get my mentor, one of them, or my other mentor, one of the 3. I could get one of them to join me next time because they have been great in facilitating this work, and they are the reasons why I want to do this work. So huge shout out to Dr. Tawana and all the facilitators and leaders at We Reign, Dr. Daniela Brissett, Paige at Education Law Center, and my mentor. I didn't forget her name. I'm so sorry, Professor. But Dr. Manuel Scott. I'm so sorry. But yes, I appreciate everything that you guys done for me. And this is the reason why I care. They are the reason why I care so passionately about adultification, and why Amber out here today is able to talk about it, because We Reign does some amazing work that helps Black girls stay rooted in their history and the things and knowing how to talk about these things and tell the people what we want in order to feel safe in our space and in our community, because Black girls deserve to feel safe too. So yeah, we thank you all for watching and listening to us today.
Yes, thank you for coming. Before you guys go, I would just like to do one more announcement, and it's about this documentary that I'm doing. It's called The Misguided Documentary. I'll just say a little about it. I don't want to be too long. I think I'm good. So, about the Misguided Documentary, basically, we're talking about any youth, inner city youth that's been misguided into the wrong direction, into the wrong path, and it could be because of, because of stuff, trauma in the past, or any type of issues that you had. We just want to have you to talk about it in the documentary, so that I can show it to the rest of the inner city youth, so that they won't continue to make the same mistakes. Kind of show them, I've been through this, so that you won't fall into the same pothole, fall into the same trap that I did. This is kind of like bringing awareness to these topics, bringing awareness to drugs, bringing awareness to police, to imprisonment, bringing awareness to, I forgot the last one. I think it was violence, I believe. Bringing awareness to those things, so that we know how to, so that they know how to avoid them when they come in their path, instead of falling into the wrong direction or the wrong path. So yes, I am doing a documentary. This is, yes, I'm the director of it. And it'll be really nice. So what I'm asking is for you guys to email my dad. I don't really have his email right now, but it's on his Facebook. And email my father at, yes, or the Ethel Zachary Foundation, to see if you are willing to talk about any type of misguided direction you've been on, so that we can tell to these inner city youth, probably to your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, your children, your godchildren, just to tell them that, just to help them out along their way, and to tell them all the things that is probably going to come up, and how to avoid them. So yes, that's it for tonight. I'd like to thank Amaya again for coming on and talking about the adultification of young Black girls. I really, really hope one of you guys learned something today, whether it was about the Fort Church bombing, uh, the Birmingham, Alabama girls, or was it about the adultification of Black girls. I really do hope you guys learned something. And yes, stay blessed. Bye.